The Philadelphia Eagles have just made a significant move off the field that tells you a lot about where this organization is headed. And it starts at the very place where championships are built. The team has officially announced an expansion of its long-standing healthcare partnerships with Jefferson Health and Select Medical under its NovaCare Rehabilitation brand, reinforcing a relationship that has already been deeply rooted in this region for years. But this is more than just a routine extension. This is a statement. As part of these new multi-year extensions, the Eagles' South Philadelphia practice facility has been renamed the Jefferson Health Training Complex. That's right, the building the Eagles have called home since 2001. The facility that features the first-class weight room, cafeteria, practice fields, draft room, workout areas, conference rooms, and office space, and the site that hosts Eagles training camp will now carry the Jefferson Health name. On top of that, Jefferson Health will continue serving as the patch sponsor on the team's practice jerseys, maintaining a visible and symbolic presence within the organization. Don Smolenski, president of the Philadelphia Eagles, made it clear just how meaningful this extension is. He emphasized that the long-standing partnership between the Eagles and Jefferson Health has always been built on a shared commitment to the region. According to Smolenski, this multi-year extension marks a defining moment in that partnership. Officially making the Jefferson Health Training Complex the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, he highlighted the organization's excitement about celebrating this milestone. Together and building on their joint impact throughout the community, anchored in shared core values. Jefferson Health is not just attaching its name to a building. As the team's official health system partner, Jefferson will collaborate with the Eagles on year-round community initiatives. These initiatives will focus on health, education and screenings, preventive care awareness, and engagement programs that align with key Eagles priorities, including the Eagles Autism Foundation and the annual Crucial Catch Intercept Cancer Game. That connection between football and community impact is something this franchise has leaned into heavily, and this renewed agreement strengthens that bridge even further. Joseph G. Cacchione, MD, Chief Executive Officer of Jefferson, expressed pride in standing alongside the Eagles in a partnership that reflects a shared mission to improve lives. He described the agreement as a commitment to advancing health, wellness, and access for the communities Jefferson serves every single day. When you hear that language, you realize this is not just branding. It is positioning two major institutions in the region as aligned forces working toward long-term community benefit. At the same time, NovaCare Rehabilitation remains firmly in the picture as the Eagles' official physical therapy partner. This relationship goes back more than 25 years. Smolenski describes NovaCare as one of the team's longest-tenured founding partners and made it clear that this new multi-year deal carries that history. Forward into the future, he spoke about gratitude for NovaCare's support and collaboration over the past 2.5 decades and expressed confidence that many more milestones will be celebrated together. Ray Panacchia, Senior Vice President of NovaCare Rehabilitation, echoed that sentiment, emphasizing pride in continuing a long-standing founding partner relationship with the Eagles. He highlighted the shared passion for excellence and unforgettable fan experiences. Importantly, he pointed out that many Eagles fans also trust NovaCare for world-class physical therapy throughout the Delaware Valley. This renewed agreement builds on 25 years of trust and performance, aiming for even greater impact in the seasons ahead. Now, if you're a fan, you might be asking, what does this really mean for the football side of things? The reality is that elite performance starts with elite preparation and elite care. Having Jefferson Health's name on the training complex reinforces the organization's focus on player health, access to top-tier medical resources, and cutting-edge support systems. And with NovaCare continuing its role, the infrastructure behind recovery, rehabilitation, and performance remains stable and deeply integrated into the team's operations. But the Eagles' news cycle doesn't stop there. As the organization looks ahead to 2026, attention is also turning to roster decisions, and today the spotlight is on the cornerback position. This is a group that features established stars, young building blocks, and several players fighting for their future in Philadelphia. Cooper DeJean has already built a remarkable resume at just 23 years old. He has made an iconic play in a Super Bowl, won a championship, earned Pro Bowl honors, and been named first-team All-Pro. In his second NFL season, he blossomed even further into an elite nickel corner while also playing outside in base packages. His tackling ability allows the Eagles to remain stout against the run, even in nickel looks. He is not eligible for a contract extension until after the 2026 season, but if he continues at this level, a long-term deal will become a priority. There is no debate here, he stays. Quinion Mitchell is in a similar category. While he did not record an interception in the regular season again, that stat does not reflect his impact. He earned All-Pro recognition and has proven himself to be one of the stickiest cover corners in the league. Entering year 3, he too will be eligible for an extension after the 2026 season. Like DeJean, he is viewed as a foundational building block for the future. Adoree Jackson delivered a late-season resurgence, establishing himself as a functional CB2 down the stretch. However, he is a free agent, and while there is a case for bringing him back to compete in training camp, there is no guarantee he returns. Kelee Ringo, despite physical gifts and special teams excellence, struggled defensively when given opportunities, though his value as a gunner and Pro Bowl alternate on special teams strengthens his case to remain for the final year of his rookie deal. Meanwhile, players like Jacorian Bennett, Tariq Castro-Fields, Brandon Johnson, Ambry Thomas, and potentially Michael Carter to face uncertain futures, whether due to performance, roster competition, or financial considerations tied to contract structures. So when you step back and look at the full picture, you see an organization strengthening its foundation off the field through major healthcare partnerships while simultaneously evaluating a cornerback room that features elite young talent but still raises questions about depth and consistency. With the Jefferson Health Training Complex now officially part of the Eagles' identity and a secondary anchored by Dejon and Mitchell, the future looks structured yet competitive. But here's the big question as we move forward. Do you believe the Eagles have done enough at cornerback behind their two stars? Or should this position be one of the top priorities heading into 2026? That's where this conversation really gets interesting, because once you move past Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, you start looking at a position group that feels both promising and unsettled at the same time. The Eagles have two legitimate cornerstone players in their early 20s, both already decorated, both already playing at an elite level. But the NFL is not built on two corners alone. Depth, competition, and financial flexibility all matter, especially at a position that gets tested every single week. Let's go back to Adoree Jackson for a moment. By the end of the season, he had stabilized the CB2 spots. Early struggles in competition during the year made it clear that the Eagles were not fully convinced, and yet when the dust settled, he was the best option they had on the outside, opposite Mitchell in certain looks. That late-season surge matters. It shows resilience, it shows adaptability, but here's the reality. He is a free agent. Bringing him back likely means another short-term deal and another offseason of competition. If the Eagles truly want more consistency at CB2, they may once again explore the draft or the veteran market. If they do that, Jackson could very well be wearing another uniform in 2026. Now consider Kelee Ringo. Physically, he checks every box. He is 6'2", runs sub 4.40, and weighs over 200 pounds. On paper, that is prototype outside corner, size and speed. But whenever he has had meaningful defensive snaps, the results have not matched the athletic profile. Coverage instincts, technique, and ball skills have not developed the way the Eagles hoped when they invested a fourth-round pick, especially one acquired by trading a third-rounder. That context matters. Expectations were higher because of the resources involved. And yet, while Ringo has struggled defensively, he has been one of the Eagles' best special teams players, excelling as a gunner and even earning Pro Bowl alternate recognition. That special teams value could very well secure his place for the final year of his rookie contract. But if you are projecting him as a future starting outside corner, the clock is ticking, then you have the depth tier. Jacorian Bennett had an opportunity late in the season, and the performance raised serious concerns. At 25 years old and under contract, he technically has a chance to compete for a roster spot. But roster spots are earned, not given, and based on what we saw, he will have to show dramatic improvement to stick around. Tariq Castro-Fields has bounced between teams and practice squads since being drafted in 2022, playing just 27 snaps across 4 seasons. That resume makes him a long shot. Brandon Johnson, an undrafted rookie out of Oregon, saw limited action and offers some inside-outside versatility. But as a 5'10", 185-pound defensive back, he faces an uphill climb. Mac McWilliams, a 5th-round pick, barely saw the field as a rookie. That is not automatically a red flag, but it does mean 2026 becomes pivotal for his development. Ambry Thomas remains on a futures deal and is another name in the mix, but again, a long shot based on recent history. And then there is Michael Carter, too. Acquired before the deadline, he provided depth at nickel and safety, but his contract structure becomes a major factor. With base salaries ballooning over the next 2 years, it is difficult to imagine the Eagles absorbing that figure without a restructure. Financial flexibility is part of roster construction, and the Eagles have never been shy about making tough decisions when numbers do not align with roles. So when you evaluate this cornerback room holistically, you see a clear top tier in Dejon and Mitchell. You see a possible bridge option in Jackson. You see special teams value in Ringo, and then you see a large group of players fighting for relevance. That tells you something. It tells you this position is stable at the top, but wide open behind it. Now connect that to the bigger picture. The Eagles just reinforced their commitment to elite infrastructure with Jefferson Health and NovaCare Rehabilitation. The training complex carries a new name, but the mission remains the same: build and sustain excellence. Off the field, the foundation is strengthened. On the field, the blueprint is clear at certain positions, but competition remains essential. The cornerback group perfectly reflects that balance between certainty and evaluation. If you are building a championship defense, you need stars. Yes, but you also need reliable depth, injury insurance, and players who can step into high-leverage moments without the entire fan base holding its breath. The Eagles have 2 stars. The rest of the room must prove it belongs. So as we move closer to 2026, the front office faces real decisions. Do they trust internal development from players like McWilliams or Ringo? Do they bring back Adoree Jackson as a veteran competitor? Do they draft another corner early to solidify the future? Or do they believe the current mix, anchored by 2 All-Pros, is strong enough to contend as constructed? When you really zoom out and think about everything we've laid out, this isn't just a routine offseason evaluation. This is a defining stretch for how the Eagles want to structure their defense for the next 3 to 5 years. Because having Cooper, Dejon, and Quinion Mitchell changes the equation. It gives you flexibility, it gives you confidence, it gives you the ability to be patient in some areas and aggressive in others. Dejon's versatility alone reshapes the defensive blueprint. The fact that he can dominate as a nickel, shift outside in base packages, and hold up physically against the run means the Eagles don't have to substitute as often. That's a massive advantage in today's NFL, where tempo offenses try to trap defenses in mismatches. His tackling allows the Eagles to stay in nickel and still defend the run effectively. That's not common. That's rare. And when you pair that with Mitchell's elite man coverage skills on the outside, you're talking about 2 corners who can erase large portions of the field. But championship windows are fragile. Depth becomes critical when injuries hit or when offenses start game planning specifically to attack your weakest link. If a team decides to avoid Mitchell entirely and isolate the CB2 or target matchups against backup corners, the Eagles must be prepared. That's why this evaluation process matters so much. If Adoree Jackson returns, it likely means competition remains open. He proved he can respond to pressure and improve as the season goes on. But the fact that the Eagles consistently look for upgrades during the year tells you the coaching staff was never fully settled. Bringing him back would provide experience and continuity, but it wouldn't eliminate the need for competition. Kelly Ringo's situation might be the most fascinating. Physically, he's everything you would design in a lab, yet technique and instincts separate great athletes from great corners. The Eagles must decide whether year 4 becomes the breakthrough season or simply confirms what they've already seen. His special teams excellence gives him value, but that alone doesn't secure a long-term defensive role. Then there's the financial layer. Michael Carter II's contract situation isn't just about performance, it's about cap allocation. Paying premium money to a depth defensive back doesn't align with how this front office typically operates. If adjustments aren't made, tough calls follow. That's the business side of football, and it's always lurking beneath these evaluations. What stands out is this: the Eagles are not